What you just saw is video from earlier today at a market in France. This was where the second hostage situation was. We want to bring you up to speed on everything that has been happening. And again, please stay with us and bear with us because this is a very fluid situation because there is still so much going on. If you are just joining us, the two brothers who were the main focus of the French manhunt regarding the killings at the cartoonist's office earlier this week, the magazine office, they are now dead. Sharif Kouachi, 32 years of age, Saeed Kouachi, 34 years of age. They were the French citizens. They were known to the country's security services. They were identified very quickly after the event itself at the Charlie Hebdo offices. They had apparently been at a gas station in northern France. They had apparently carjacked a vehicle there. They wound up at a printing facility in an industrial park not far away in a small village north of Paris. Let us go now live to a freelance journalist in France near the hostage situation at the printing plant. Kate Rousseau joins us. Kate, thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Kate, can you bring us up to speed then on what we have? We do, of course, know that the Kouachi brothers are dead, that there is apparently a death of the suspect in Paris. But from your vantage point, what you saw and what you know now from the siege at the printing plant?
Well, what I can tell you is I'm in Demartin-en-Goële, which is, as you say, a very small town just north of Paris, very close to Charles de Gaulle Airport. And the press section here has been split up into two groups. There's one group, which is where I am, we're a little bit further away, and the other group is on the other side of the industrial estate where the hostage situation is taking place. We didn't hear anything from here, but the journalists on the other side heard gunshots. They heard, I believe, 2 explosions, and they saw smoke rising from the scene. And that happened. That was when the authorities, the gendarmes, actually went in. And I think you said it was a coordinated attack. Or coordinated raid. They went in at this hostage scene at the exact same time as they went in at the other hostage scene in eastern Paris.
Do we have any further reports, because we're getting conflicting word right now, on whether or not any of the hostages were injured or killed?
Again, I'm hearing conflicting reports. What I've been told about the situation here where I am is that it was a 100% success rate, that the 2 murder suspects, the Charlie Hebdo magazine, they were both killed, and the hostage was rescued with no fatalities to the police. However, in Paris, I've heard a report, it's unconfirmed, that 3 people have been killed. I can't tell you if they are hostages or if they are police. I really don't know. That's just a rumor I've heard. And since I'm not at that scene, I'm unfortunately unable to confirm it one way or the other.
Kate, can you give us an idea of what it has been like there for about the last 24 hours? Because when this attack happened, there were people, of course, going, how could this have happened? How could these guys sitting on watch lists to known bad guys actually commit something like this? But then it seemed with a great rapidity and a great definition of what they were going to do, the French authorities truly went to work, and they brought everybody together very quickly in order to get a hold of these guys, find them, and track them down.
They have the feeling here is it's been a very, very strange week. Emotions have been up and down. I think on Wednesday after the initial attack, everybody was in a state of shock, but it didn't really start to sink in until yesterday morning, Thursday morning over here. And that was when flowers started to arrive at the scene and candles. But since then, since it's been announced that the 2 murder suspects were on the police radar, the police knew of them. They'd been trained by Al-Qaeda in Yemen, and they're also on the no-fly list. They weren't allowed to fly to the States, for example. So while there's been a sense of fear, which is surprising given that hostages were taken in eastern Paris, there's a sense of fear, but also a sense of anger, really, that the authorities knew about these people, and yet these attacks could still go ahead. So I think the feeling tonight, it's only very recently happened in the last few minutes. And as you say, stories are still coming out, still conflicting. But once the dust had time to settle, I think people by the end of this evening will be feeling very relieved that the situation is now over. But there will be questions that need to be answered. Why were these men who were known to the authorities, how were they able to get their hands on Kalashnikovs and execute 12 people, including journalists, in the center of Paris and fleeing, and were not apprehended until this afternoon, 2 days later?
Kate, we've seen a lot of video from the different tributes, if you will, candles being lit, people gathering in downtown Paris in the last couple of days here. But we're hearing now an anger. Do you sense an anger from the French people now that maybe we're not seeing? You talked about that, certainly about what has happened here and how this was allowed to happen, but an anger that their village, if you will, their town, their home has been so violated like this, because anger is something we don't usually hear from the French in a situation like this. Do you sense that from the people?
I really do. I think that the French, they feel that their founding principles have been violated. The French motto is liberté, égalité, fraternité, which is liberty, equality, and brotherhood. And something that is absolutely fundamental to French belief is freedom of expression. It is extremely important in France. And most of the Western world would say, oh, yes, we believe in freedom of speech. But in France, it's really very highly valued. And when you see all these people protesting with pens and pencils in their hands, it really is a symbol that they will not be gagged, that freedom of expression must be allowed here. And the anger is mainly to do with this. Yes, people are angry that this has happened in Paris, which is generally a relatively safe city. We have been on high alert. We have been expecting some kind of attack, but we were expecting perhaps an attack on the metro, not an attack on journalists that were killed in cold blood. So yes, there is anger, but it's not necessarily the kind of anger you would expect. It's how dare these people infringe our rights? And let's not forget that France is the country that invented the original human rights bill, I think 200 years ago. So it's something that they feel very strongly and very passionate about.
I only have 15 seconds left, but is there a fear that there may still be others out there and other attacks coming from the same cell?
We'd like to hope that this is the end of it. Again, we have to wait and see, but the dust still needs to settle, and we need to see what happens over the next few days. But France is on high alert still, and I imagine it will still continue to be so for a few days to come. And
it's all happening at a frightening pace as well. Kate Rousseau, thank you so much. A wonderful job, really. Very professional job as well. I thank you for your time, and please stay safe.
Thank you.
All right. In times such as this, there is nothing more important than a truly fair, impartial, and unafraid media. And such stalwarts as the New York Times have already bowed to terrorism. We'll cover that angle of this continuing story with Joe Concha when we continue.